Here's the 30-second version of how to read a text file using a buffered reader. This method takes a string as an input, that's the name of the file that you want to read. It then creates a buffered reader using that file name here. And then it will loop over the file one line at a time and read each line and then add it to a string builder, which is a special object that makes it very fast to append a lot of lines of text. And then at the very end, you convert the string builder into an actual string and you return it. Stick around for a step-by-step walkthrough of what all of these pieces actually mean. Okay, so just like we did last time, let's strip away all of the details and let's focus on the heart of the thing. Everything on the right-hand side of the equals here is a fancy way of getting a new buffered reader object for this file. So once we have our buffered reader object, what we're going to do is we're going to read one line at a time from the file. And I'm going to address these compile time errors in just a second. But the buffered reader is called BR. So first, we try and read a line. If there aren't any more lines to read in the file, this is going to return null. So for example, if the file was empty, we would get null right away. And so we say, as long as line isn't null, let's go ahead and add that line to a string that represents the full text of the file. So as we loop and read each line of the file, we're going to build up an output string that contains each line of the file's text one at a time. After we've added the line, then we'll tell the buffered reader to read the next line. So each time you run readLine, BufferedReader keeps track of where it is in the file, what it's read so far and what it hasn't. And so each readLine will have it return the line that it's currently on, and then it will move its reader down one line so that it's ready to read the next line. So there's several things that we're going to want to change between here and what I showed you at the beginning of the video. So first, just like when we were writing to files, there are unhandled exceptions. So let's go ahead and add a try catch block. So we'll have try, all this stuff, and then catch. And I'm just going to catch any old exception that happens to occur. So I'm going to call this error obj. And if you don't know about try catch, go ahead and watch the previous video about writing to files where I give a more thorough explanation. And now let's do system. So you could do system.out, but actually system.error is a different channel that's specifically for displaying errors. So let's use that one instead. And we'll print there was a problem reading the file. Oh, yep, reading the file. Okay, so step one complete. But also, just like last time, whenever you're opening a file, you also want to remember to close it. And so a better thing to do than remembering to close it is actually to declare your resources inside parentheses right after your try. Because then the resources will automatically get closed and freed for you. So that's a change that you should make. And we can go ahead and test this now before continuing to make our other fixes. So all of this is going to read example.txt. I've created an example.txt file right here, and you can see that it just has some lines of text in it. So here at the end, let's print out full text. So because I declared full text inside the try block, it doesn't exist outside of the try block. So let's do this. Let's declare it out here. So all right, so I've declared full text out here, and so now I'm going to try and read into it, and then we'll display it at the end. So let's run the code and verify that it works so far. Okay, so here's the first thing that we're noticing. In the text, each word is on a new line, but then after I read it, it's all kind of strung together here. So it's as if all of those new lines disappeared. And the reason that happens is because readLine will return the string all the way up to the end of the line, but it doesn't actually return the new line character. So a way to fix this is to add them back in again. So normally you'd add \n as your new line character. A slightly better thing to do would be to ask the system that you're on what its line separator is. So system.getProperty line separator. Let's just verify that I've spelled this correctly. Okay, I did. Because \n is not the new line character on every single possible computer. So let's run it again, and now we can verify that we have reinserted all of the new lines. Oh, it already ran. Okay, let's run it one more time. Okay, so now you can see what we display in the console looks a lot more like what's actually in the file. If you were going to use this to read a very large file, like the complete works of Shakespeare or a very large data set, you wouldn't actually want to have a string where you use the plus operator to append to the end of the string. I wonder... Yeah, so IntelliJ is warning me against that here. And the reason why not is because strings are an immutable data type, which means that you can't actually change them. Whenever you do something that seems like it's changing a string, like, for example, adding on to the end of it, what's actually happening is a completely new string object is getting created, whose content reflects the change you're trying to make. But constantly constructing new objects inside a loop is a lot slower than an alternative. So the alternative I'm referring to is Java's Stringbuilder object. So Stringbuilder is an object that was specifically created for allowing you to do something like what we're trying to do. Inside a loop, you can append text to the end of a string, except it's not really a string, it's really the string builder. And then once you're done with all of your appending, at the very, very end, you can convert it to a string, and it'll be a lot faster. So let's do that. String builder SB equals new string builder. And so now we don't need full text. Okay, great, I deleted it. So now instead of saying full text equals full text plus something, we say sb.append. And that's a way of saying take whatever text is inside the string builder right now and on to the end of it, add this other stuff. So first I'm going to append the line that I read from the file, and then I'm going to append the line separator. And then I'm going to read a new line. Okay, so what's gone wrong here? Oh, it looks like somehow I imported a strange other string. Okay, cool, fixed. So this is really doing the same thing that may have been more familiar when you were adding onto the end of a string, but it does the same thing, just a lot faster. Okay, so now, so last thing though is if we really want to turn it into a string, let's make our full text string and we'll say sb.toString. So remember, SB was the string builder, and when you say sb.toString, then it will output a string that represents everything that you had added to the string builder. So let's run it again, and we get the same thing that we did before. And on something this small, you don't notice the performance difference, but if it was a very large file, you would. As a last step, let's generalize this inside its own method, because what I really want to do is something like this. File contents equals read file, and then I give it the name of the file I want to read, and it will just do the right thing. Read file should just open the file and do all this other stuff. So what should this read file method look like? Let's go ahead and cut everything that we just wrote, and then let's create this file, and this is going to be called file path. Sorry, did I say file? Create this method. And now I'm going to paste everything that we had just cut. So we take a file path as an input. Instead of opening example.txt, we want to open whatever string they told us to open. There, so file path. Everything else looks good. We'll keep it all the same. Except now, if there's an error, maybe we should actually display file path. So it'll tell us the name of the file that it was having trouble opening. And then at the very end, instead of creating a full text string and displaying it, let's just return the string that represents the full text of the file. So I'll cut all that. And this is what I showed you at the beginning of the video. And so now whenever you want to read a file, you can read the whole file at once this way. Sometimes you may not want to read an entire file as a single giant string. You may want to do something with each line individually. For example, if it's a data file, each row in your file might get created as its own data object. So come back in the next video And we'll do sort of a variation on this pattern. So instead of returning like a single string that represents everything, we could return like a list of row objects or a list of data points or something. Okay, good luck. I'll see you next time.